If we had the worst top five in the NBA, the Wizards would be not only number one, but number two, number three, and number four, and then the Pistons to round it out. They have lost
Uh,
15
yeah.
straight games, and we were bored one night, and we're like, you know what? Let's go through the Washington Wizards history, the
Yeah.
acclaimed history of the Washington Wizards, and that thereof. So, really, the Wizards.
Yeah.
What about them?
Really, the Wizards? What about them? Well, here's what you need to know. I was scrolling through my phone one Sunday morning, checking in, looking at the numbers, staying on top of my history for modern NBA teams. I was like, how the hell do you have the same record as the Detroit Pistons? And I was like, okay, let's take a look at this esteemed history with the Washington Wizards. And not only are you one of the worst teams in history, you may have the worst all time 12 players of all time. Half of the players are from the 70s and they're from the Washington Bullets. And ever since you changed your name to the Washington Wizards, you have not had 3 straight seasons where you've won, where you've had a winning season here. And then the most notable teams we can talk about was John Wall and Bradley Beal. Wow, you had a guard who couldn't shoot, and then by the time Bradley Beal hit his prime, they had kind of passed each other. And the most iconic moment in Washington Wizards history is fossilized Paul Pierce banking in a game-winning shot versus I believe it was the Atlanta Hawks at the time that they were playing, with Jeff Teague balling out the way he has. So this is one of the worst teams in NBA history. If you go through the 2000s, one of the worst teams of the modern century in the NBA. And how do you know that? Well, going through Basketball Reference here, we had 3 straight, not 1, not 2, but 3 straight years where your leader in win shares were not John Wall. No, he'd only had it one time, not even back-to-back seasons. Not Bradley Beal. Well, he did have 3 straight years, but you still had 3 straight years of Marcin Gortat leading you in win shares.
Hey, dude, he was the original bald-headed assassin right there. Talking about the big man before the big man. No, we can go through their win shares. We can go through their wins. The funny part is they have not won more than 49 games since 1979. We're talking about a team, if they want to reverse history, what history? Because we could go through their top 12 players of all time. We can erase every single one of these players from history if we wanted to.
Let's do
and
it.
it would not change a thing. So, number one, we have Wes Unseld. Okay, he was great in the crack era. Elliot Hayes.
When they were great. Yeah.
Yes. So the funny part about the Wizards also, the best time to be a Wizards fan was during literally the cocaine era. Literally the worst era of basketball history. The 60s was the Celtics, the 80s was Bird and Magic, and then the rest is history. The 70s, notoriously the worst time in the NBA, a time where the NBA was nearly defunct. That was when the Wizards were great.
Yeah.
Elliot Hayes. Okay, he was cool. What else? I can't even read it from that far.
Walt Bellamy.
Who?
And then Bradley Beal. And then we were having a conversation of Bradley Beal. It's like, where does he rank on like the Klay Thompson scale? And I was like, when you look at the Warriors without Kevin Durant, could he have had a Game 6 Brad instead of Klay? I don't think so. Could he have been as valuable and complimentary to that team as Draymond Green? So it's like, could Bradley Beal even be the 3 on a championship team? Potentially in his prime if it was the perfect setup, but at best, he's the 3rd best player on a championship team there in an ideal situation. And that's just how the NBA is. You have to have 3 of the best players in the league.
But he's the 4th best player of all time, according to the Wizards win shares.
And then we have Greg Ballard. Sorry, if your last name rhymes with a duck and that's the first thing that comes to mind, sorry, doesn't pass the name test.
Doesn't pass the name test. John Wall.
A guard who can't shoot.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy, 6th greatest player of all time in Wizards history. He's another guy. He was good in his time. He's one of those Derrick Rose figures, although I think Derrick Rose was better.
Yeah.
Similar idea, injuries, whatever, but like erase him from NBA history, nothing changes.
Yeah, no, he was just known as a poor man's Westbrook.
Yep, exactly.
And then Westbrook is still playing, and then Derrick Rose is still playing. Where is John Wall? In Shanghai. I remember when he was going to save the Clippers last year. Remember that? No, because he didn't play.
And then Gilbert Arenas. When I think of Gilbert Arenas, I think of the guy who shot himself in the foot. Literally shot himself in the foot. and lost out in his career there. And then we have, is that Antoine Jameson?
Yeah.
I only like him because of his last name.
Yeah. Nice ears, but that's about it.
Nice ears. I remember
And
him
then-
on the Cavs. That's about it.
And then at number 9, and none of the rest of these players really matter here, we have Jack Marvin. Sorry, if you have a top 10 player in franchise history who's white and his name is not Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Luka Doncic, or Kelly Olynyk, sorry.
Or
can't
Dante
do it.
DiVincenzo.
Or Dante DiVincenzo. At least he's ginger. So that gives him some extra, I don't know, a little extra attributes, but you can't have this guy with a bowl cut running around being your 10th best player of all time.
He also doesn't pass the name test.
Yeah, and then we have Phil Cherrier, looks like he was doing cocaine. We have Gus Johnson.
He does pass the name test, but
He does pass the name test. And then we have Brandon Hayward there, but the
Brandon
Wizards, one of the worst franchises in the NBA, and it's like, at some point, the NBA has to step in and be like, buddy, what are you doing? Maybe owning a basketball team just isn't for you because you are single-handedly tarnishing the brand for young people all over Washington trying to be fans. And I know you're trying to move to Virginia, save yourself with a little bit of rebrand. You tried to do that with the Bullets, and you still have not won 49 games since the 1970s. And where you have peaked in the playoffs, well, let's look at their playoff history because we went through that here. And if you start after the 70s, from
after the cocaine era. you mean.
after the cocaine era, you go from 1988 to 99 all the way up until 97 without a playoff appearance, and you lost in the first round. And then after 1997, we go all the way until 2005. You lose in the conference championship, lose in the first round of each year. That was the Michael Jordan era, I believe.
What year was that?
2005 to 7. So no,
That was the Gilbert Arenas era.
Gilbert Arenas era. Shot himself in the foot in the first round, literally.
Literally. And,
And
then
then-
we entered the Marcin Gortat era.
Yeah, now we're in the Marcin Gortat era. Lose in the semis twice, couldn't get over the hump there. And then you lose in the semis again after missing the playoffs in 2015 and 16. Then it's a first round exit, lose in the first round in 21 and 21. But other than that, you miss the playoffs every single year. And this is Hornets level bad. At least the Hornets have LaMelo Ball and they're somewhat fun to watch. But you were like, you know what? Our big two this year is going to be Jordan Poole, literally the worst plus-minus player in the league, and then also Kyle Kuzma, someone who can get along with LeBron, red flag, someone who can get along with Steph. Who doesn't get along with Steph Curry? It's not Kevin Durant, because that was Draymond Green's problem, but Jordan Poole, I'm not getting enough shots with the Warriors. Well, you had plenty of chances to take over, and you did nothing. You were good in the Boston series, but that was pretty much it, and that was your great idea. And then you asked, well, if they're this bad, they must have all of these draft picks, right? No, not really. Over the next 7 years, they have 7 first-round picks. So it's not like you can trade all of that capital and get a star there, and it's not like you can package a bunch of picks either to get a star. So Adam Silver, it's time. The Washington Wizards, we declare on the Brickyard, have been bad for way too long. It is time for the NBA to force the ownership to sell them or make drastic changes, or they will no longer qualify to be a professional team in the NBA.